That's a really good question because in Ep 8, obviously Guy does step over that line.
Yeah, and I don't know.
You don't know about that. And like
Jonathan Bloomberg writing for movie scene in Sweden.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Right back at you. So I'll start off by saying that I've seen the entire season, so I've seen the finale, so you don't have to be afraid of spoiling anything, and I will hold your answers back until the finale has aired, so you're free to speak freely about the show. So your two characters are kind of the who should she choose characters of this costume drama. And I must say that Matthew, as a guy, gets like probably the most poetic kind of lines to say throughout the show. So I was wondering if that was hard for you to kind of learn and pull off in that kind of way, because it kind of sums up his character a lot.
Yeah, I think when you're in love, you say some things you don't normally say, don't you?
Yeah.
But in terms of like the writing was so good, so it didn't ever feel like I was speaking poetry or something like that. But also there is also that fear of, because some of the stuff he's saying is like I as Matthew wouldn't say. So you're always worried about it coming across too cringy or period drama-y. But when you just sort of like keep it rooted in how you're feeling towards that person, because actually, well, yeah, scrap that. Because when you are in love, you do say some things. So I think it is, yeah, it's rooted in truth.
Yeah, and your two characters have this like they've known each other almost their entire lives, or for a very long time at least, and I wonder if you two were to look at the characters, who do you think that she should have chosen in this? Like, what team are you on? If you would step out of your own characters and look at it from the outside.
I think where the story is at now, I think if speaking as Guy myself, I would have to. I think Nan's heart. I think she loves Guy, played by Matthew. So I think as where we are in the story now, I think I think she has love for both of them, but I think she's in love with Guy, and I think so I think it would be I would be going against my own kind of morals if I said
I think Theo's such a good candidate for her, and but at the end of the day, I think the life that Theo brings with him is not for Nan. And I think ultimately, although I originally obviously was going to marry her for money, and like some people, that's a big red flag, and you're not coming back from that, which he didn't do. So like, I was going to marry for her for money, and you just have too much money in a way. So,
I should have given you some of my. I should have given you a castle.
Yeah,
the story would have been
out. Yeah. But yeah, I think ultimately, I feel like she's in love with Guy. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So as a final spoilery question, your two characters kind of bond at the end, though. They forgive each other, but then there is this transgression taking place in the finale. And do you think they would ever be able to reconcile if that were to come up in maybe a future season, if we have one?
That's a really good question, because in Ep 8, obviously Guy does step over that line.
Yeah, and I don't know.
You don't know about that. And like, that's Ep 7, that like I crossed the line in Ep 5, but I don't cross it to that point until Ep 8. And it'd be tough. I think that's tough. It's tough.
And we do have a lovely scene at the end of episode 7
do, yeah.
I think everything aside, there is still that, you know, they're
Love,
like brothers, they're more than friends. So that's a very, that I agree, that's a very good question, and I think it would be very, I want to know too.
Yeah.
What might happen there.
So we'll just have to wait and see if there is a second season or not, and if it's explained in it. So thanks a lot for taking the time to speak with me, and best of luck with the finale.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And since I'm holding these answers back until the finale has aired, what do you think about the final choice that she actually makes to go with it? Hi, I'm Jonathan Bloomberg, writing for movies in Sweden.
Hello.
Hi, son.
Hey,
Hey,
yeah,
hey.
we could probably do this in Swedish since you're both born in Norway, right? So
Yes, I was born in Norway, but I don't speak Norwegian.
She's slowly learning
I'm
again.
slowly learning
Yeah,
again, but
baby steps.
Kristine will do it.
Nah.
Kristine will do it.
yeah, I'll guess we'll stick to English, but
I hate that.
Kristine can.
Next time.
Next time, yeah.
Yeah, season 2 if we get one. I'll
yeah.
do the interview in Swedish for sure, and you can answer in Norwegian. So I've obviously seen the entire season. I know the entire season hasn't aired yet, but you don't have to be careful about spoiling me anything in the final episode, because I will hold this interview back until that has aired.
Okay, cool.
But
Good.
but I just wanted to start off by asking kind of how you felt like going into this kind of costume drama, because it's not like any other costume drama I've seen before. It's so high energy on this, and especially Conchita brings a lot of that energy. So
yeah.
how was that?
It was hard because we had to wear the actual corsets, and Conchita in the beginning of the series really does require a lot of energy. And it felt like I was doing a Marvel movie. Like, because I felt like I had to spin, and she talks so much. And when we're wearing this tight corset, you have like 80% lung capacity, it feels like. So I would find myself like getting dizzy during these scenes. So I had to very quickly adapt to the costume, because it whips you into shape, or else you'll faint. You will faint if you don't know how to move and breathe properly in the costume.
Yeah. And Kristine, Nan is kind of the character, the one that we are all thinking, will she or won't she? Who will she pick? So that's who everyone has been kind of who has been following the show are thinking about who she will go for. So having that in mind when you play the character, having like tiny hints or throwing people off by doing something, how did you work on that with the creators of the show and with your portrayal of the character?
I mean, yeah, that's all thanks to the writers. They did that so well. I honestly just try to take each scene as it came and not look at the overall arc, just take each beat as it came. And just try and find the dance between the internal conflict and her draw and her gravitation towards the men, because it's so actually unlike Nan. When we meet her in the beginning, she's supposed to be very against it, and then all of a sudden she has two men, and it's just kind of survival mode and chaos. And yeah, just try to be present with the boys, you know?
Present with the boys.
Present with the boys and see what happens.
Yeah.
The writing was all there.
Yeah.
And since I'm holding these answers back until the finale has aired, what do you think about the final choice that she actually makes to go with the Duke?
I'm really proud of her. I really admire her strength and the courage to do something like that, to sacrifice herself in that way. And I think that's been the through line of the whole film, is the female relationships. And I'm glad that it comes back to that, and it's not actually about the men, it's about her sister ultimately, and that I think is really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks a lot for talking with me today, and best of luck with the finale now. And best of luck to you, Alisha, with the Norwegian.
Yeah. So the scene in episode 2 with Lord Seaton and Lizzie,
Yeah.
I think was definitely one of the more challenging scenes for me. I know I was very nervous for that scene because I just wasn't sure how it was going to go at first.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Bloomberg, writing for a movie scene in Sweden.
Hey,
Hi.
Hi. So I'll start off by saying that I've watched the entire season, so I've seen the finale, and so you don't have to be afraid of spoiling me, and I will also hold back this interview until the finale has aired, so you can speak freely.
Safe space.
Yeah.
Safe space.
Safe space, exactly. So I kind of wanted to start off by saying that your two characters kind of this is a show that is with very much energy, but your character kind of grounds it with some really powerful storylines. And I wanted to begin with you, Aubri, having that scene. You obviously know what scene I'm talking about in early on the season, and having to deal with the aftermath of that throughout the season. So how was that for you to portray that season in particular, but also the aftermath?
Yeah. So the scene in episode 2 with Lord Seaton and Lizzie,
Yeah.
I think was definitely one of the more challenging scenes for me. I know I was very nervous for that scene because I just wasn't sure how it was going to go at first, but on the day everything went really smoothly, and Barney, who was a lovely person but terrifying when he is like in his Lord Seaton mode, made it just so easy for me to be terrified of him throughout the whole like whenever we had a scene together. So I thank him for his talent and his portrayal. But I think that scene obviously deals with a lot of dark themes. And I think it was definitely nerve-wracking to begin with, but then I felt really sorry for Lizzie. I felt very, very sorry for Lizzie and what she went through with him. And it taught me a lot about sort of what she had to deal with, and I went into like why she hasn't told anybody about this, what happened with her and Lord Seaton, and then obviously the understanding that like she was so ashamed. So yeah.
And Amy, when it comes to your character, she doesn't have that nice of a time with this particular Lord either. Even though, I feel like she doesn't kind of wants to reconcile what's actually happening to her. And I think that was a really important portrayal that you put on the screen for us, for everyone to see. So how was that?
What, trying to reconcile her friendship?
Trying to reconcile what the Lord is actually doing to her.
Right. Well, yeah, I think it takes a lot for a person. You know, she's got so much at stake in this marriage. It's not just like, even today, a marriage is like it's like a hard commitment, and you don't want to even let people know if there are problems or whatever, but she's in this coercive relationship, and a lot like within that, you know, she's been very isolated from her friends. She's lost her voice. She doesn't really know who she is anymore, and I think she believes a lot of the stuff that James tells her because she thinks it about herself anyway. So you have someone like reaffirming these ideas to the point where they just have all the control over you. And it's like her friends, you know, it gets to breaking point. I can say she obviously, then she knows that I can talk about that. She when she gets pregnant, I think that's the thing that really is like, okay, it's not about me anymore. I have this baby growing inside of me, and if he treats me like this, he's going to treat the baby like this. And sometimes you need to look out of yourself, I think, to get that perspective. So yeah, that's a turning point for her, I think.
Yeah. thanks a lot for speaking with me today, and best of luck with the finale. And I sure hope we do get that second season, and we can talk even more then.
Hope so. Thank you so much.
It felt quite important to root it in reality and to be like, this is like a thing that happens. And it can kind of happen to anyone, and it also looks quite normal at first.
Jonathan Bloomberg, writing for Movies in Sweden.
Hey man, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great, especially now when I get to speak with the two of you, of course.
Oh,
that's sweet.
Yeah. So I've seen the entire season, so you don't have to be afraid of spoiling me of the events of the finale, and I'll hold the answers back until that has aired. So you're free to you can speak freely is what I'm trying to say.
Cool.
Okay. I hate Josh. If I'm speaking freely, I should just
don't.
Yeah. Well, you had to put it out there. I understand. Right. Speaking of hate, I kind of feel like it's your character that most people hate watching this show, Barney. And I was wondering how it is to play a character like that, knowing that that's how the viewers will go. I know back in the days on Game of Thrones, the actor who played Joffrey, people shouted things at him on the streets. How is it to actually portray a character?
Well, I haven't had that yet. It's been kind of all right so far. Yeah, people have been fairly nice. It was good to. I mean, it was good to do, and I think it's nice to it's like a challenge as an actor to have a part that does very, very bad things, but to try and find like the humanity in them, or find the motivations that are maybe not understandable, but like that are real, because it's sort of like these types of relationships, these like coercive relationships, they do exist. They're not sort of like 2D caricature villainies. They're kind of like quite real things. So it felt quite important to root it in reality and to be like, this is like a thing that happens. And it can kind of happen to anyone, and it also looks quite normal at first. You often don't notice these things developing, and it's often like only when you're within the relationship, which is a nice thing about doing it on film, is the camera can take you into the intimacy of it, that you actually see like quite how unpleasant it can become.
Yeah, for sure. And Josh, you kind of get to portray married life with a young kid, and how that was during this era, and also with a wife that doesn't live like society of that time was deemed appropriate. So how was it to be dropped down in that environment with your character?
Yeah, it was really fun to explore with Alisha, who is just amazing. She's such a wonderful actress, and I loved working with her. And I think, like you said, like marriage, and I imagine having a young child is challenging at any time, and changes a person's identity. And so in the show, we're watching two people who have just had such a carefree, before the show starts, they've had this whirlwind romance in America where they were just completely head over heels in love with each other and living life to the full and just kind of going crazy. And then suddenly their identity changes individually, but also collectively in the UK. And that must have been really tough. And then at that time, which in the 1870s, where there's so, particularly for a man like Richard, where there's so many constraints and the expectations are so high, that would have been really difficult. I don't know. It was really interesting to think about being a dad in that time. I think I didn't live then, so I don't know. But fatherhood.
Do you know?
I mean,
I
might have.
That's really interesting.
I have to check.
I actually thought you were 130.
But like fatherhood, there's this perception that men were very detached from that. And I liked exploring how. Richard, I think, absolutely loves Minnie, his little girl. And I loved the scenes where we got to play with her. That was so nice.
Yeah, and we also got to see how his mother didn't kind of understand how he actually could feel something like that for his own child, giving us the impression that she barely feels anything for him at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for both of your thoughtful answers and for speaking with me, and best of luck with the finale now. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very
Thanks for
much.
this.
Thank you.
Fun. I think that music box scene actually was very.
It's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, we spent a good amount of time on that one.
I'm Bloomberg, writing for movies in Sweden.
Hello.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi. So I've seen the entire first season. So I've seen the episode that the finale that will drop next week. So you don't have to be careful spoiling anything, and I will hold your answers back until that has aired. So feel free to say whatever you want. But yeah, but first of all, I just wanted to say that I really like this show, and I usually don't go for the costume dramas, but this drew me in a way that most hasn't. And your two characters kind of steal the show low key in the background. So I was really happy to be able to speak with you. One of my favorite moments so far was the giving of that music box. So I wanted to ask about how your feelings about portraying your roles on this show. It's supposed to be kind of in the background of things, but whenever you get those scenes, you really go for them, and I have enjoyed that. So how has it been for you?
Thank you.
We've
had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We did have a lot of fun. I think that music box scene actually was very.
It's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, we spent a good amount of time on that one while filming it, of course, but also even before that, we talked. We did. I think you and I had coffee at one point, and we did talk about it. You know, the feelings behind it and what that means. And it's quite an important moment for both of our characters for different reasons. I think it's very important for Honoria because she's sort of, I mean, obviously, you know, something has happened before this in one of our previous episodes where she's not been very happy with Mabel, and then it's kind of coming back around again, but she clearly can't ignore these very large feelings that she has towards you, really, you know, loving feelings. And then, I mean, you can speak about Mabel for that as well, because obviously I'm not playing Mabel, but
yeah. No, I mean, I think that was a special moment. I think that was one of those things where it was like, I'm saying all of this because I love you, and I wish that the world wasn't this way, and I wish that I didn't treat you like this, but kind of when you wrong someone so hard, it's kind of hard to bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, and I also really liked the scene that you had with Lizzie coming out to her.
Lizzie, yeah.
Yeah, so how was to shoot that scene? Yeah, I'm thinking that could be very important for many people to see that out there going through a similar experience in their lives.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is sort of the penultimate scene in Mabel's journey, and which is why, like, I wanted it to be very special. I know Aubri felt the same way and knew that it had like a weight that we wanted to pay respect to. And I was really grateful for Catherine Jakeways, because that scene in particular, we had reworked so many times with like our writers, because doing a coming out scene that for a show that takes place in the 1800s, but the show is also modernized, was like a very, you know, thin rope to walk. And I think we wanted to, you know, allow it to not be a scene of trauma, but to still pay respect to the era that like we were having these conversations in, where certain vernacular didn't exist in that time. And I think hopefully we were able to do that. And I'm happy with how it turned out. I mean, I remember watching those types of scenes growing up and how much that meant to me.